The sensation was shattering, not a violent explosion but a fracturing of perception, a dismantling of reality itself. One moment, Elias was adrift in a chaotic sea of temporal distortions, witnessing the echoes of countless lifetimes. The next, a sharp, agonizing clarity descended, severing the connection to the swirling vortex of time. He gasped, lungs burning, and stumbled backward, bracing himself against the cold, rough stone of the structure. The world snapped back into focus, the colors regaining their vibrancy, the sounds coalescing into a coherent whole. The chaotic energy that had permeated the air dissipated, replaced by a familiar stillness. He was standing on the rocky beach, the gray Atlantic stretching before him, the fog swirling around the island. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across the landscape. It was the same beach where he had first landed, the same sun that had greeted him on his arrival. He looked around, his heart pounding in his chest. The structure loomed before him, silent and imposing, its dark stone gleaming in the morning light. It looked unchanged, as if the surge of energy, the temporal distortions, the revelation of the loop had never happened, but he was changed. He remembered everything, every iteration of the cycle, every fragmented vision, every moment of his countless lives. He remembered Silas Blackwood, not as a distant figure from the past, but as a fellow prisoner of the loop, a kindred spirit trapped in an endless cycle of repetition. He knew with absolute certainty that he had relived this moment countless times before. He had walked this beach, explored this structure, deciphered Blackwood's research, and witnessed the solstice alignment. He had felt the surge of energy, the temporal distortions, and the agonizing clarity of the revelation. He was trapped, but this time something was different. This time he was aware. He wasn't merely a puppet dancing to the tune of the loop. He was a conscious observer, a prisoner who knew his prison. He walked towards the structure, his steps slow and deliberate. He ran his hand over the cold, rough stone, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on him. He looked up at the dark, imposing silhouette, and a strange sense of resignation washed over him. He knew he couldn't break the loop. He had tried countless times before. He had experimented with different approaches, different strategies, different outcomes, but every attempt had ended in failure, leading him back to the same starting point, but he could understand it. He could analyze it, dissect it, and unravel its mysteries. He could learn from his past iterations, identify the patterns, and predict the outcomes. He entered the structure, walking through the crumbling stone doorway. He found Blackwood's journals scattered across the floor. He picked one up, flipping through the brittle pages. He saw his own handwriting, mirroring his current thoughts, his current observations, his current despair. He realized that Blackwood wasn't merely a predecessor, but a future version of himself, a prisoner who had reached the same level of awareness. He continued to explore the structure, searching for clues, for answers, for a way out. But he knew deep down that there was no escape. The loop was self-contained, a closed system with no beginning and no end. He sat down in the center of the structure, closing his eyes. He allowed the memories to flood his mind, the fragments of countless lifetimes merging into a chaotic symphony of experience. He saw himself as a scholar, a researcher, a prisoner, a prophet. He saw himself as a hero, a villain, a victim, a savior. He saw himself as everything and nothing all at once. He opened his eyes, a strange sense of peace washing over him. He had accepted his fate. He was a prisoner of the loop, and he would remain so for eternity. But he wasn't broken, he wasn't defeated, he was enlightened. He stood up, walking towards the doorway. He stepped out into the sunlight, breathing in the fresh, salty air. He looked out at the ocean, the waves crashing against the shore. He knew that he would relive this moment countless times before. He would walk this beach, explore this structure, decipher Blackwood's research, and witness the solstice alignment. But this time he wouldn't be a prisoner. He would be an observer, a witness, a guardian of the loop. He would be Lumin Verity Haze, and he would endure. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the island. Elias blinked, a strange sense of déjà vu washing over him. He knew this place. He knew this moment. He knew everything. And as the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, he found himself standing on the rocky beach, the gray Atlantic stretching before him, the fog swirling around the island. The cycle had begun again. And the question lingered unanswered on the wind. Was this a prison or a purpose?